We begin the Gemara today in the bottom of Chavdalet Amud Beis, last line on the bottom of the page. So the Gemara here, we're in the middle of discussing Reb Chanina ben Dosa and the tremendous nisim that happened to him on different occasions. And the Gemara continues with this to halfway through the next Amud. Just to mention, this inyan of Reb Chanina ben Dosa, the Rebbe spoke about this, Kam Apomim, and there's in the Rishimis Chayveres Chof, where the Rebbe spoke about Reb Chanina ben Dosa, that he was an unusual tzaddik, and the stories we see here in the Gemara. And his derech and aveda was, he was removed from the Welt. He was for himself on a higher level. And when it speaks over here before about Reb Chanina ben Dosa going on the way, so this was Reb Chanina ben Dosa, there was a Yerida, that he came down into the world, and then he went back to his house. That means he went back to his natural place, which was above the Metzias of the world. And his aveda was different than, for example, the Kohen Gadol, when he davened in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Kohen Gadol, when he davens in the Beis HaMikdash on Yom Kippur, he's thinking about the people that have to travel out and they might be affected by rain. So what does that show you? That even the greatest tzaddik has to be thinking about the people that are on the lowest level, and therefore he davens for them. Whereas Reb Chanina ben Dosa had a different type of aveda. His aveda was a person that was mufshit, completely removed of the entire world. That's the point of what's unique about him. Look in the Rishimis, the Rebbe explains it barichas. Let's begin the Gemara where we're holding on the bottom of the page. Where are we over here? The last line of the page. Okay, yeah. Havaregila. So this is a story about Reb Chanina ben Dosa's wife here. Havaregila de Bisu. His wife was accustomed to lemechmet tanura, to heat up her oven, kom maila de Shabbat, every Friday. And she really didn't have what to cook, what to bake in the oven, but she heated it up anyways. Vishad yaktarta. She threw into the oven some material that created a smoke in order that people should think that she's baking. Mishum kisufa. She was embarrassed of the fact that she had nothing to prepare for Shabbos. Everybody else is baking and cooking for Shabbos, and she has nothing. Havaloch hach shevivusa bishte. She had this bad neighbor that wanted to embarrass her. So Amra, she said, Mechti, let's see what's going on over here. Yadaina the leslo v'loy midi. I know that they have nothing in their house. So my kulahai, what is all this smoke from her oven that she's baking here? Azla, she went v'tarfa above. She went and knocked on her door. Ichsaf, she was embarrassed. What's going to happen is she's going to come into my house and she's going to see. V'ayla le'indruna. She went into one of the inner rooms to see what's going on. Es avid la nisa, a nest occurred. The chazia le'tanura mali lachma. She discovered that there's an oven full of bread, and va'agna mali lisha, and a bowl full of kneaded dough. Amr Allah, and now this neighbor comes and says to Reb Chanina ben Dosa's wife, Planisa, Planisa. She called her name, or she said, Mrs. I see Masa, go bring the utensil, this shovel sort of, that you need in order to remove the bread from the oven. Your bread is going to get burnt otherwise. Amr Allah, Reb Chanina ben Dosa's wife said to her, yes, I was also coming in for this purpose, to take the bread out of the oven. Why was she coming in for this purpose? So Tana, we learned, she also came in to bring her shovel to get the bread out, because she was accustomed always to nisim happening to her, so she is expecting this to happen. Yeah, even though we learned before in the Gemara, you're not supposed to be nana mimaisa nisim, but it seems like that by Reb Chanina ben Dosa it was different. Maybe it's connected to the point I said before, that they lived b'chlal, removed from Teva in a higher world. So once his wife says to Reb Chanina ben Dosa, Ad emes nezul v'nitztar kulahai. Until when do we have to have such pain for so long that we have no food here? Allah says to her, my navet, what should I do? So she says, Boy Rachme, ask the Eibishter, that they should give you something, that you should be able to live in this world. And others like it is that she asked from the Eibishter, here in the side of the Gemara, that the Eibishter should give you from the good things that are hidden for tzaddikim in the future. Boy Rachme, so Reb Chanina ben Dosa davened to the Eibishter, Yotzese kemim pisas yad, so like this form of a hand came out from heaven, and gave him a leg of a golden table. So then after that, Chazia Bechalme, he saw in his dream the following. Asidi tzadiki, all the tzadikim in the future are going to be sitting by a golden table, and they're going to eat by the table that has 3 legs. And you're going to be sitting by a table that only has 2 legs, that can't stand really. Because now you got this leg here in this world. So Amrale, or the right gears is supposed to be Amallah. He says to his wife, Nichalach de Mechel Achli Kula Alma Pseire de Mishlam. Are you happy with the fact that everybody else is going to be sitting by a complete table? Vanan Pseire de Mechser, and we're going to have this table that's missing a leg. Amrale, so she says to him, Umay Navid, so what should we do? Boy Rachmi de Nishkalinu Minach. Ask the Eibusher that he should take back this leg from you. Boy Rachmi, he asked from the Eibusher, V'shakluhu, and they took back this leg. Tana, we learned about this. Gadol Hoya Nes Achrin Yesim Arishin. The later miracle that they took back the leg is greater than the first miracle. The Gemiri, because we have a tradition, the May of Yavi from heaven, the Eibusher gives Mishkalei Shakli. The Eibusher does not usually take back. So the fact that a Nes happened to take back what was given is a greater miracle. Chad Bei Shimshe, there was one Friday afternoon. Chaz Yele Brate, the Havis Atzive. So he saw his daughter that was sad. Amrallah, so he says to her, Biti Lemay Atzivis, why are you sad? Amrallah, she says to him, Klishal Chaimitz Nischalefli Beklishal Shemen. There was a vessel full of vinegar that got exchanged with the vessel of oil. Vidlachli Mimena Oil Shabbos. And I lit from it the candle for Shabbos. So I'm not sure if it's going to burn on Shabbos. Amrallah, so he says to her, Biti, my daughter, Mayich Beslach, what does it matter to you if you lit from chaimitz, from vinegar or oil? Misha Amal Hashem v'yidlaik, the one that says that oil should burn, Hu Yaimar l'chaimitz v'yidlaik. He will say that the chaimitz should also burn, so it makes no difference. It's a famous story, similar also with the Baal Shem Tov, where they once didn't have any oil and they took the icicles off the roof and they lit it, and the Baal Shem Tov said also that it could burn the same way.
His daughter lit Shabbos left.
Yeah, so she lit it, and it burnt l'chatchila, even the chaimitz, even before she asked him, right? It was already burning. So she should have realized right away that the chaimitz could burn as well.
She's not married, and she's still on Shabbos.
Yeah, that's another thing you see here, yeah. Tanem, so we learned in the Braisa, Hayedailik v'haylach kalayim kulay, this chaimitz that she lit was burning the entire day, the entire Shabbos, at sheviu mimena orla avdallah, till the end of Shabbos that they used the same light for avdallah candle. Another story with Reb Chanina ben Daisa. Reb Chanina ben Daisa havalei hanach easy. He had these goats. Amrulei, people came and said to him, Komafsadon, your goats are coming and damaging our property, which wasn't really true. So Amar, he said as follows, Ika mafsadon, if the goats are damaging the properties, nechlinu doivi, let bears come and eat them up. But v'iloi, if it's not true, then kol chada v'chada, each one of them, teisi lo'orte dova bekarnayu. Let them come tomorrow carrying a bear on their horns. So what happened? Lo'orte, the next day, aisi kol chada v'chada dova bekarnayu. They came with carrying the bears in their horns. Havaleahi shivivasa. There was once a neighbor, the Kabanya Beisa, that was building a house, V'limatik Shura, and the beams that he had for the house, so the beams were short a bit. They didn't reach from one wall to another, so he had a problem with building his house. Asilakamei, so he came to Reb Chanina ben Daisa, Amrulei, and she said to him, Benisi Beisi, I'm building my house, but V'likamatik Shurai, the beams of the house don't reach from one wall to the other. Amalai says to her, Ma Shimcha, what's your name? Amrulei, she says to him, Eichu. Amar, he said, Eichu nimti kshurech. Let the beams of your house reach. Let them reach to the other walls. Tana, so he learned. What happened is, Higiyu, they immediately reached to the other walls. Achayatsa amalakan v'amalakan. And they were perfect size, and they even went out one amma on each side. That's according to one gersa of what happened. V'yashemrin, others say, snifim awesome. That a nes happened that these additional pieces became connected to the beams, and that's how it became long enough. Tanya in Abraisa we learned, I saw this house where this miracle occurred. And it happened like the first version, that it was one long beam and it extended and it came out one amma on each side. And it was said to me, this is the house that Reb Chanina ben Daisa, with his davening, made the miracle that it was able to be covered with the beams. Now the Gemara asks on the first story over here, Reb Chanina ben Daisa, how did Reb Chanina ben Daisa suddenly have goats? In the beginning we learned that Reb Chanina ben Daisa was so poor he didn't have any bread in the house. All of a sudden he has goats. He was very poor. Void, another question. Amru Chachamim, the Chachamim said, Ein megadlin behemet daka beretz Yisrael. You're not allowed to raise any small livestock in Eretz Yisrael, and the reason is because these small livestock go around and they could damage other people's properties. So how is he allowed to raise these goats in Eretz Yisrael? Rav Pinchas said, Maise, so the incident that happened was as follows. Somebody passed through his house, and they left chickens there. And his wife found these chickens. He told his wife, don't eat from their eggs. You can't use these chickens. It's not yours, and don't eat from their eggs. And he left those chickens there, and it kept on laying more and more eggs, and there were more chickens there. And these eggs and these chickens were giving them a lot of pain. These chickens running around. So what did they do? They sold all the chickens and the eggs. And instead, they bought with the money these goats. So so once this person that left the chickens there finally passed by, and he said to his friend, right here I left my chickens. Rab Chanina heard this. Do you have a simon that these were your chickens? So he said yes. Not only simon, he gave the simon of his chickens. And then he took his goats that they were bought instead of these chickens. These are the goats that he had, that the miracle happened before, that they brought beers on top of their horns. The Mefarshim point out that the Gemara doesn't answer the second question that it asked. How is he allowed to have goats if they could damage properties? If he's looking to buy something instead of the chickens, why did he buy goats if they damage properties? And there's a takana not to have goats. Elamai, some Mefarshim say that because he bought goats for this mitzvah, and so therefore he knew that it's not going to damage any properties. Dr. Gemara Rabbi Elazar ben Pedas, another Tana that we find also that was very poor. The Chikele Milsa Tuva, he was extremely poor. So once it happened that Ovad Milsa, he did something, and this refers to the fact that he had to let some blood, and then after you let blood, you become very weak. He had nothing to eat afterwards. Shakal Bra de Tuma, so he took a clove of garlic, Vishadya Bepume, and he threw it into his mouth to try to relieve himself. Cholash Libe, but he became very weak, Vinin, and he passed out. And Ozla Rabban Shiyulibe, Rabbanan came to see how he's doing. Chazyu de Kabachi V'chayach, and they noticed, while he's sleeping, I guess, so they noticed that he was crying and laughing. And also, V'nafak Tzutzisa de Nure Me'apuse, and there was these sparks of light that came out of his forehead. Kiyisar, when he woke up, Amrulay, they told him, "My time bekabaches v'chayches. Why were you crying and laughing?" Amalahus, they told him as follows: "The Have Yosef imi Hakadosh Baruch Hu. The Eibishter was sitting with me. V'amrilay, and I said to the Eibishter, Ad Mosai et Star b'Hai Alma. Until when do I have to have so much pain in this world?" V'amali, and the Eibishter answered me, "Elazar b'ni, Elazar my son, nichaloch the abchila alma mireisha." Do you want, is it good for you that I should turn over the world from the beginning? In other words, let me start the world all over again from the beginning. And Efsher, and then possibly the Misyaldes, B'shaita the Mizaini. Maybe you'll be born in a time period where there'll be abundance of food for you. So let's start everything over from the beginning. So Amri Lekamei, I answered the Eibishter, Kula Hai, you're going to do so much, you're going to start the whole world from the beginning, and only the Efsher? And even that, then it's only possible that I'm going to have food? Amri Lei, so then I said to the Eibishter, the Chaye Tfei, the life that I have already lived, is more from my lifetime, or the Chayana, or the life that I'm still going to be living is more of my lifetime. Amalei, the Eibishter answered him, the Chayes, what you've already lived is more from your lifetime. Only the minority of your lifetime is left ahead of you. So Amri Lekameh said to the Eibishter, Im Kain Leibina, if so, I don't want. It's not necessary to turn over the whole world, that maybe I'll have more to eat. Amali, so the Eibishter said to me, so this is the point where he cried. So the Eibishter said that he's not going to be able to give him food. Amali, the Eibishter said to me, B'hai Yagra, for this, as a reward for this, the Amris Loi Be'ina, that you said you don't want me to make this miracle to turn over the whole world for your sake. Yehivnalach la'almed da'asi, I'll give you in the world to come, Kleisre, Narvasa, the Mashcha, Afarsamen, Dachyain. I'll give you 13 rivers of clean balsam oil, kiporas v'diglas, like the rivers of poras and diglas. The ma'angis behu, and you'll have pleasure with this. And this is when he laughed. Amri li kamei, so and I said to the Eibishter, Hi, v'suloi, this is what you're giving me and nothing else? So Amar li, the Eibishter said to me, U'lechavrach ma yahivna, and for your friends, what should I give? So in other words, what this means is that if I'm giving all of this to you, so I'll be taking away from your friends for you. Amrilei, I said to the Eibishter, Va'ano mi gavre de lesle beina. I only want to take from someone that is not deserving of Eilam Haba, and I'll take his Eilam Haba. But don't take from my friends that do deserve Eilam Haba. And so now after this, Machyan bas kutle apusya. The Eibishter hit me, or maybe a malach hit me with his fingers on my forehead. And that's when they saw the sparks of fire coming out of his forehead. V'amar li, and he said to me, the Eibishter said to me, Elazar bri giri bach giri. The Eibishter says to me, my arrows are in you, my arrows are in you. Rashi actually says that this is an expression of love, or expression of joy that the Eibishter had with him. Now the Gemara goes back to what we were speaking before in the Gemara, which is various different Tanaim and Amirayim that were fasting for rain and it didn't necessarily rain right away. Rab Chama bar Chanina Gazer Tanisa, he decreed a fast, V'layasi Mitra, and it didn't rain. Amrulei, so they said to him, Rabbi Yishua ben Levi Gazer Tanisa, Rabbi Yishua ben Levi decreed a fast, and V'asi Mitra, and it did rain. Amalohus, so Rab Chama bar Chanina says to them, Ho anon, ho bar Livoi, I'm me and he's him, we're different people and I'm not on his level. Amrulei, so he said to them, the Nasi, bring Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi here, v'nechave and daitin, and let's concentrate our minds on davening. Efsher, and possibly what will happen is the Tavri Tzibura Libayu will be able to break the hearts and souls of people that they should daven, and Asi Mitra, and it will come rain. Bain Rachmus, so they davened, and V'lo Yasi Mitra, it still didn't rain. Amalahu, so he said to them, Nichalu Sheyavai Mata B'Shilenu, he said to the people, will you be happy if it will come rain for our sake? Amrulei, hey, they said, yes, of course. So Amarek, so he said, Rakia, the sky, Kasi Panech, cover yourself with clouds for the rain. Loya Kasi, it did not cover with clouds. Amar, he said, Kama Azan Panei Rakia, look how Azan, how stubborn and how chutzpahdik the sky is, that it doesn't cover with clouds, even for the sake of the tzibur. Ichasi, after he said that, it got covered with clouds and Vasa Mitra, and it began raining. Another story, Levi, Gaza Tanisa, Levi decreed a fast, V'layasi Mitra, and it did not rain. He said to the Eibishter, you went up and you sat in an exalted place, and you don't have mercy for your children. Asa Mitra, as soon as he said that, it began raining, but Ve'itla, and then he got harmed, and he got a limp, because he spoke so sharply to the Eibishter. So Amar Abelazar, La'olam al yatiach adam dvarim klape ma'ila. A person should not speak so sharply to the Eibishter. Sharei adam gadol yatiach dvarim klape ma'ila. A great person, Levi, spoke this way to the Eibishter, and Ve'itla. And because of this, he got harmed. Umanu Levi. So the Gemara asks on this, but V'ha Gramale, this is what caused them to begin limping. V'ha Levi, what happened is, there was a different story that caused them to limp. Achvi Kida Kamei de Rebbe. He showed what this concept of Kida means. It says in the Torah, Vayikoid. What does Kida mean? That you fall down on your thumbs and then you're able to spring yourself up from your thumbs from the ground. Basically what it is. So he demonstrated to Rebbe what Kida means and Ve'itla. And that's what caused him to get harmed and he was limping. So the Gemara says, Ha v'ha gramale. Both caused this. It's because he had this Aveda that he spoke to the Eibishter sharply, so therefore when he was trying to demonstrate this Kiddah, he was unsuccessful and he began limping. Rabchia bar Lulaini Sham'inu lahana chanani. Rabchia bar Lulaini was hearing this conversation of these clouds. The Ka'amri, they said, Neisu, let's go, v'nisvi maya b'aman and let's throw down water that we have to Aman and Mayav. Amalafanav says today, when you gave La'amcha Yisrael, that is, when you gave Torah to your nation, the Yidden, Chazart al Kolum, so you went to all the nations of the world, they did not accept the Torah. And now you're going to go and give Aman and Mayav rain. Shadu Hacha, throw the rain over here. Shadyua Aduchtayu, they threw the rain right down here in their place. Another drasha from the same Amayre, Dorish Rabchia bar Lulaini, Maidich what's the meaning of the pasuk where it says that Tzadik Katoma Yifrach, a Tzadik sprouts like a palm tree, Ke'eres Balavon Yizga, and he grows very tall like a cedar tree. So it says here that a Tzadik is compared to two different things, a palm tree and a cedar tree. In Nema Tamar, so if he's compared to a palm tree, so Lama Nema Eres, why does it say he's like a cedar tree? Vim Nema Eres, Lama Nema Tamar. Or if he's like a cedar tree, so why is he compared to a palm tree? So the Gemara explains, Ilu Nema Tamar, if it would only say a palm tree, V'loy Nema Eres, and it would not say a cedar tree, Hayisi Yaima. So then I would say as follows, Ma Tamar, just like a palm tree, Ein Gizeh Machlif. The stump of the tree, if you cut off the branches, it does not refresh, it does not produce more branches. So I would say, after tzaddik, so too a tzaddik that's compared to a palm tree, chas v'shalom and gizim machlif, once he passes away, he does not refresh again. In other words, he doesn't get up for tchias amesim. L'kach nema eres. So that's why it says it is compared to a eres, to a cedar tree, and they get up for tchias amesim. On the other hand, ilu nema erez, if we would only say that it's compared to a cedar tree, v'lei nema tamar would not say that it's compared to a palm tree. Hayisi emer, so then I would say, ma erez einoisepedes, just like a cedar tree does not produce fruits, af tzadik chas v'shalom einoisepedes, so too a tzadik does not produce fruits. L'kach nema tamar, so therefore it says that it's compared to a palm tree that produces fruits. Well, now the Gemara asks in this, v'nema erez. Again, so the way you read this is L'kach nema tomar and v'nema eres. It says both tomar and eres because each one has a certain advantage. But the Gemara asks, the eres gizoi machlif? Is it true that a cedar tree, once you cut off the branches from the trunk of the tree, that it's going to refresh again? But Vatanya and a Braisa we learned, you buy a tree from your friend, and you didn't buy the actual ground itself with the tree. You just bought the tree to use the wood from the tree. Lakuts, to cut the wood from the tree. So you have to leave the tree in such a way that it could grow again. So when you cut from the tree, you have to have a tefach that grows out of the ground to leave it there, and the kaitzitz, and you can cut from the tree. And then it could reproduce again for the owner. The sadan ashikma, if you're buying a sadan ashikma, which is a kind of fig tree, shnei tvachim. So in order for it to reproduce, you have to leave 2 tvachim off the ground. The psulas ashikma, it's the same kind of tree, but it's a tree that was never trimmed before. So shleisha tvachim, you have to leave 3 tvachim off the ground. Bekanim, reeds, bekfanim, and vineyards, menat pekak ulamayla. There's this knot in the way it grows from that area and above. That's where you can cut off from it. Then b'dekalim u'ba'razim, but when you come to palm trees, when you come to cedar trees, chayfer lemata, if you're cutting off from any branches from this tree, you can dig all the way to the bottom, u'mashish, and you can even take out the roots as well. The fishayin gizem machlef. Once you cut off the branches, it's not going to produce again. So you might as well just cut off the whole entire thing. So you see clearly over here that a cedar tree does not reproduce again. So the Gemara answers, it depends. Over here, when we say a tzaddik is compared to a cedar tree, it's other types of cedar trees. And we had this in the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. Asara mine arazim hein. There are 10 different types of trees that fall under the category of a cedar tree. Shenema etem b'midbar erez shita hadas v'gaimer. It mentions there are different trees, and there's more trees that are not mentioned in the pasuk that we learned in the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. They're all called cedar trees. Tan Rabbanam, we learned in the Braisa, Maisa b'Rabbi Eliezer, Shagaza Shloisha Shetani Salat Tzibur. He decreed 13 fasts, like we had before, the order of the fasts on the Tzibur, V'layardu Gishamim. And it did not come out any rain. Bachreina, so at the end of the last fast, the Tzibur began leaving the place where they were davening. So, and it still didn't rain. Amalahem, so he says to them, he saw that they didn't really daven with their full kavanah. So he said to them, Tekantam kvarim latzmachem. Did you prepare graves for yourself? If it's not going to rain, we'll have no food, we'll all die. Go, kolam b'pchiyah, and then they all began crying, and then v'yardu geshamim. It began raining. Shuv ma'isa b'Rabbi Eliezer, sheyard lifnei ha'tevet. Rabbi Eliezer went and davened for the yom. V'ama esrim v'arba brachas. He said the 24 brachas that you say when you fast. V'lei nena, and he wasn't answered. Yard Rabbi Kiva achrav. Rabbi Kiva went to the yom after him, and v'amer, and he said, Avinu malkeinu, ein lanu melech ela ata. And then he said, Avinu malkeinu, Lamancha, for your sake, Rachem Aleinu, have mercy upon us, and v'yardu geshamim, and the rain came down. So what happened? So the Rabbanon, the Talmidei Chachamim were saying negative things about Rabbi Eliezer. Look, he wasn't answered. Yatzas Abaska v'amra, so Abaska came out and said, Loi mipnei shezeh gadol mizeh. It's not because Rabbi Kiva is greater than Rabbi Eliezer. El shezeh maver al midaisav v'zeh ina maver al midaisav. There's one particular midah that Rabbi Kiva had that he does not stand on his principle even if someone offends him. So because of that, he has a certain milah that the Eibusher listens to him. Even though Rabbi Eliezer is different in that he had a different kind of anhageh, but this was his milah. But otherwise, Rabbi Eliezer was just as great as Rabbi Kiva. Tan Rabbanon and Abraisa we learned. Ad masayig shamim yardim. At what point do we say that enough rain came down? And then you could stop from fasting. Like we had in the Mishnah that if it rains early on in the day, so you can stop fasting. But how much rain do you need for this? Says the Gemara, Kemloi berach hamachreisha. Enough rain to fill up the place where you plow in the ground, the blade that goes into the ground and it plows the ground. If the rain can fill up that area, so then you can stop fasting. Divrei Rab Meir. The Chachamim say it depends. If it's a very hard and dry land, tefach. It has to rain enough that the rain should go into the earth, the depth of a tefach. But beinanis, if it's a land that's not too hard, but not too soft either, tfachayim. The rain has to be able to seep into the ground, 2 tfachim. Ba'avuda, if it's a field that was worked with, it was already plowed, so the rain could seep in easier, shleisha tvachim. That's if the rain goes in for 3 tvachim. Tanya in a brayse we learned Rab Shimon ben Elazar ein lecha tefach mo mayla she'ein tohaim yetz lekrasa shleisha tvachim. You don't have a time when the rain comes down from above and it comes down and it enters into the ground 1 tefach, that the water from below, from the tohaim, also comes up from where it is 3 tvachim. Fragt the Gemara, but Vatanya in a different brayse we learned tfachayim, that the rain from below comes up from where it is 2 tvachim, not 3. And so the Gemara like Kashi, it's not a question. Kam ba'avuda. If it's rain, if it's a field that's avuda, that is already plowed, so therefore for the rain to go in a tefach, it doesn't have to rain that much, so then it comes out only 2 tefachim. Kam b'shein avuda. With a field that's very hard and was not worked with, so in order for it to go into a tefach, it has to rain much more, so then it comes up from below also 3 tefachim. Amar Rabbi Elazar said, when they would pour the water on the Mizbeach, on Sukkos, so then Tohaim Oimah Lechavere, the Tohaim says to its friend, which refers to the water below that's having a conversation with the waters above, Abba Meimach, you should have your water flow. I hear the sound of the 2 friends, which is the water that they pour in the Beis HaMikdash, together with the wine that they pour in the Beis HaMikdash on the Mizbeach. Shenema, as the pasuk says, Tahaim el Tahaim kaire, the water of the Tahaim below calls out to the water above, L'kail tzinerecha, because of the sound that they hear of what's coming down in the funnels from the Mizbeach, that would go all the way down to the Tahaim, and he hears the water and the wine that's coming down. Rabbi said, L'didi chazi li hai ridya, I saw this malach, that his name is Ridya, Dami le'igla tilse, he looks like a calf, in the shape of a calf, or Persis vase, and his mouth, his lips are spread out from above to below, and he's standing between the Tahaim below and the Tahaim above, where the rain comes from, and and he says to the Tahaim above, he says to the source of rain above, Chasher meimach, that open up and let your rain come out. And and he says to the Tahaim below, Abba meimach, allow your water from below to flow up. Shenemar hanitzanim niru ba'aretz. So hanitzanim niru ba'aretz means that it begins blossoming in the ground. The pasuk there continues and says that when does this happen? Eis hazamir, in the time when they sing. Rashi says this goes on the time of Sukkot, when they would sing in the Beis HaMikdash. And then the pasuk there continues, V'koil ha'toyer nishma bartzeinu, koil ha'toyer. This word toyer means an ox, which refers to this malach, which was in the shape of a calf or an ox. And because he was speaking to the rain above and the Tahaim below, that it should begin raining. So we had further in the Mishnah, what did it say? Hayu misanin, that once it happened, they were fasting. V'yordu geshamim kaidem netzachama, and the rain came down before netzachama, and then they stopped fasting. Tan Rabbanon, so we learned in the Braisa. Hayu misanin, if they were fasting, v'yordu lem geshamim kaidem netzachama, and it began raining before netzachama. Lo yashlimu, they don't have to complete their fast. La'achara netzachama, if it began raining after netzachama, yashlimu, they should complete the fast. Divrei Rab Meir, this is Rab Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says, Kaidim chatzais, if it began raining before chatzais, then lo yashlimu, they don't have to continue fasting. La'acha chatzais, if it began raining after chatzais, yashlimu, they should complete the fast. Rabbi Yossi is a third opinion, which was not mentioned in our Mishnah. Kaidim teshais, if it began raining before 9 hours in the day, lo yashlimu, they don't have to complete the fast. La'acha teshais, if it began raining after 9 hours in the day, yashlimu, then they should complete the fast. Shekematzina ba'achav melech Yisrael, we find by Achav, the king by Eden, she'es ana mitesha shois ulamayla, that when he began fasting, from when did he fast? From 9 hours in the day forward. Shenema, as the pasuk says, hareisa ki nichna achav v'gaimer, and it says there that he fasted from 9 hours in the day. Dr. Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya, so one time Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya, which was a grandson of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, Gazar Tanisa, he decreed a fast, and v'yardol and kshamim la'achran netzachama. It began raining and it was already after Nes. Saver lashlaminu. So the people thought to paskin, like the opinion of Rav Meir, that you have to complete the fast. Amalei Rabami said, Kaidem chatzais v'acha chatzais shaninu. We learned and we paskin like the opinion that says that it depends if it began raining before or after chatzais, so you don't have to complete the fast. Shmuel HaKatan Gazet Tanisa, Shmuel HaKatan. He's called Shmuel HaKatan because of his humility. So he decreed a fast, v'yard lem kshamim, and it began raining. Kaidem netzachama, before, very early in the day, before netzachama. So the people all thought, Loimar shvachei shel tziburu. The fact that the Eibusha listens to our fasting and immediately began raining, so this shows the praise of the people. So he says to them, not necessarily. I'll give you an example what this is compared to. An Eved that asks for a reward from his master, and he tells his servants, just give him already what he wants. I don't want to hear his voice, I'm not interested in him nudging me, just give him what he wants already. So the same thing over here also. If the Eibishter answers you immediately, lav dafke, it shows on a maila. Shuv Shmuel HaKatan, another time it happened that Shmuel HaKatan Gazar Tanisa, he decreed a fast, V'yardulem Kshamim, and it began raining. And when did it begin raining? After they fasted a whole day, and finally, Bashkiyas Achama, then it began raining. So now they also thought to say, look, we fasted all day, and the Eibishter listened to us, so this is the praise of the people. So Shmuel said also, not necessarily, not necessarily is it the praise of the people. I'll give you the following example. A servant that asks for a prize or something from his master, and he tells the servant, wait, don't give it to him right away. Let him have pain until he's going to get this. And only then should you give it to him. In other words, what he's saying is that not necessarily does this show on the shvach of the people, although it could be yes, but you have to know what it's about. It's not necessarily. Shmuel HaKatan, the Gemara says, according to Shmuel HaKatan, shvach shel tzibur heichi dami. When do you know for sure that when you daven and the Eibishter answers you that it's the praise of the people? So Omar Mashav Ruach v'noshav zike. If you say Mashav Ruach and it begins blowing a wind, and Omar Mered Geshem, and you say Mered Geshem v'asi mitra, and it becomes rain, then you know that this is the shvach of the tzibur. Okay, we have another small piece over here to finish the Perek. Should we finish the Perek here? So the Gemara Ma'isa v'gozra tainis belud. Said in the Mishnah, the story that they made a gzeir and a tainis in the Lud, and what did it say there in the beginning of the Perek? And it began raining right away, and they made a whole yontif, I believe it said, right? And then they said halal. So it says, at first they went to eat, and after they went to eat, they said halal. So the Gemara v'neima halal meikara. Let them first praise the Eibishter, and then they should go to eat. When you say halal, you only say halal after you eat and you're satisfied. Rashi brings the pasuk, it says Naisen lechem l'chol basar, which means that you say halal after the person is full. And v'keres malei, a full stomach. Eini, says the Gemara, is this so? V'harav papik l'lebeik nishted abei guvar. He came to the shul of Abei Guvar. Rashi says it's either the name of a person or the name of a place. V'gazar tainis, and he decreed a fast. V'yardu lam kshamim, and it came rain. At chatzais, before chatzais. And v'ama halal. First he said halal, and v'achakach achlu v'shasu. And then they went to eat and drink. So the Gemara answers, Shani b'nei Mechuzah the shchiche bo shichras. The people of Mechuzah, when they eat and drink, so they are accustomed to drinking a lot, and they can become drunk. So therefore, if they're going to first eat and drink and then say halal, they may never go and say halal. So therefore, he said halal first, and then he went, and they went to eat and drink. Okay. Hadran aloch, say the tiny Yisrael. This is the conclusion of the third Perek of Masechta Taina.